Hello, my name is Drew Levering from the Randolph County YMCA. Today we're going to be talking about aerobic versus anaerobic exercise. So these terms may be something that you're familiar with or maybe not, but basically aerobic exercise is where your heart rate's getting up for an extended period of time. And anaerobic is usually more shorter duration. Your heart rate may get up pretty high, but it won't be for an extended period of time. So we'll get into more of the details throughout this presentation, but that's basically the difference between aerobic and anaerobic, just on a very surface level. So with that being said, we'll get started. So aerobic exercises involve continuous rhythmic movements, and they typically last between 20 and 30 minutes. So this could be anything from running, using the elliptical, rower machine, anything that is able to get your heart rate up significantly and that you can do for 20, 30 minutes at least. Could be longer, could be up to an hour. I mean, even if you think about marathon runners, they run for a long time. I mean, the ones that are really good, it's not as long because they're so fast. But even the fastest marathon runners, it takes them still 2 hours to complete the race. And then for us, people that are maybe doing it but are not professionals, it could take 4 or 5 hours. So um, the activity is going to last for more than 20, 30 minutes, but that's kind of the minimum threshold to be considered aerobic activity. And then there's an increase in your heart rate. So as you engage in aerobic exercise, your heart rate increases to supply more oxygen-rich blood to your muscles. So it's very important that you have oxygen available to do aerobic exercise. So the blood is able to move the oxygen into your muscles. That allows you to do the aerobic exercise. So that's why your heart rate increases. So you make sure that you get enough oxygen to your muscles to be able to do the activity that you're trying to accomplish. And in addition to your heart rate increasing, your breathing rate increases. That's a big reason why another term for aerobic exercise, a lot of people say cardiovascular. So cardio is heart, and then the vascular is your breathing rate. So aerobic exercises increases your respiratory rate, and the increased respiratory rate provides your body with an adequate supply of oxygen during aerobic exercises. So your heart and your lungs work together to make sure you have enough oxygen to be able to perform the aerobic activity that you're trying to do. So they make a good team. So now we're going to move on to anaerobic exercise. So anaerobic activities are performed at a high level of intensity and often requiring near maximal effort. So this could be a lot of different things. It could be lifting weights, and you might be giving a lot of intensity, but your set of whatever lift you're doing might only last 30 seconds, or it could be a sprint. There's many different things that would be considered anaerobic activities, but they're usually something that's pretty high intensity. And we'll get to this part a little bit later, I think on the next slide, but they don't last very long either. So that's a little bit about the anaerobic activities. Let's move on and learn a little bit more. They're also shorter duration, which we've talked about a little bit already. Anaerobic exercises are typically brief, lasting from a few seconds to a few minutes. So some of these anaerobic activities are super short. And it's necessary to have a longer rest period to allow for proper recovery. So even though you're not working for very long, you're doing super high intensity activities, you're still going to need to rest for quite a bit of time before you're able to do it again. It's definitely different than aerobic activities where you really don't take a break most of the time. You just like keep going until you're done. You can see in the picture, these are Olympic sprinters, or may not even be the Olympics, but it's professional sprinters that they definitely do aerobic activity, especially if they're doing just like a 100-meter dash. Those can take like about 10 seconds, which isn't very long, but they're pretty tired just after that 10 seconds of exercise. So anaerobic exercise can be very effective. It just is definitely a lot different than the aerobic exercise. And then the limited oxygen in anaerobic activities. So we talked a lot about oxygen in the aerobic activities, but there's not a whole lot of oxygen supply that is needed in the anaerobic activities, partially because the activities are a lot shorter in duration. But anaerobic exercises do not rely on oxygen for energy production. It utilizes stored energy sources in the muscles such as creatine, phosphate, and glycogen. So it uses energy that's like found within the muscle already, and um, that allows you to be able to do those activities at a higher intensity, shorter duration. Um, what can happen though a lot of times when you have anaerobic activities and you're not utilizing the oxygen, that's a lot of times when your muscles get pretty sore because they're not able to have that oxygen moved to the muscles through breathing and through the heart pumping it out to the muscles. So your muscles might take a little bit longer to recover doing anaerobic exercise, especially if it's something that you're not accustomed to doing. But even for people that are accustomed to it, it's going to get your muscles a little sore, and that's okay. But that's just something to think about when you're doing anaerobic exercise activity. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is just the different categories, like examples of aerobic and anaerobic exercises. We talked about some of these already, but there's a few more on here that we haven't talked about. So aerobic exercises are running, walking, biking, jumping rope, swimming, and then anaerobic is strength training, interval training, plyometrics, sprint training. So these are just a list of some of the different examples of aerobic and anaerobic exercises. There's others as well that aren't on these lists, but that gives you a good idea of the different things you can do to do aerobic or anaerobic exercise. So hope you guys enjoyed this presentation and learned a little bit about the difference between aerobic and anaerobic exercises, and hopefully you'll be able to do some of both of these types of exercises in your own personal workout routine. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.